In today's video we're working on this AC. You can see I have it set to cool and auto. I did drop the temperature down below the ambient. So here I am at the vent and I'm only getting about 72, 73. I am going to have to replace the filter, but I don't see this being the problem as far as the temperature differential coming out of my vent. You can see here, even after removing the filter, I'm still at 76, 77. I'm over here at the condensing unit, and you can see immediately the problem. This is the condenser unit, and the fan appears to be running only at half speed. I'm going to pull our disconnect. Here we have our access panel. I'm going to remove that. At this point, what a lot of guys do is they'll go ahead and just try to replace the capacitor. You want to wait and allow the motor to cool down. They are thermally protected. As you can see here, we're still at almost 145. Now the method you can do is kind of let it cool off on its own, or you can go ahead and pour some water to help cool it off. You can see here, this is another condensing unit that was running right next to me that just turned off, and you can see the temperature on the motor that we're working on this condensing unit is double than what it should be. What we're going to do now, right here, you can see is the capacitor. I'm going to go ahead and replace the capacitor to see if that will give us the necessary power to allow our fan motor to run full speed. Okay, so here we replaced the capacitor. The capacitor looks fairly new, so I'm not too confident this is going to solve the problem. Right now I'm going to plug in my disconnect. It does seem a little bit faster, but that's not the speed that I'm looking for. You see this one, at the speed it's running. This one. You definitely see the difference. And it's already starting to slow down. It's already getting hot. And I'm going to pull my disconnect. We're going to go ahead and replace the fan motor. When you look at your fan motor, you have 4 wires. You have the brown, the white and the brown. Those are going to be the wires that feed to your capacitor. Here you have your black and your white, that's your hot. I'll trace these lines and I'm going to see if I'm getting the proper voltage to our motor. So here I was able to trace my lines. Already worked on this. You can see they cut the wires and then jumpered it to the contactor. So I should be getting 240 volts when I put in my disconnect. I'm going to push in my disconnect. Motor turned on. You can see here I am getting the proper voltage to my fan motor. At this point, the issue is going to be our fan motor, and we're going to have to replace it. I did pull my disconnect. Again, you want to make sure that you always work safely. Here I did remove my wire nuts. Now each leg's going to be fed 120 volts from my contactor. We do have a few screws that we're going to have to remove just to allow ourselves to lift this top panel. Here's our 2 wires to our fan motor, and now we're going to remove our wires that connect to our capacitor. At this point we have a few nuts that we're going to remove that attach to our little rods coming from our motor. Again, you do want to be careful when you're taking out the old motor. You can see here it's still extremely hot. Make sure when you're securing your new motor to the face of your condensing unit that you properly ground your wire. Reattach your blade to the shaft of your motor. Here we fed our wires through. I just like to zip tie this. I don't like wires having play when it's being used. Here we fed our wires through. Now we're going to make our connections. I do always recommend when you're replacing the fan motor to replace the capacitor as well. We made our connections for our 240 volts. Now we're going to put in our disconnect. Now we're going to take the temperature at our make sure if you're working on the AC to go ahead and replace your filter. If this video was a help, if it was informational, please subscribe.